Today, I want to talk about whether the shorts just deleted tons of synthetic shares during those market-wide halts on Tuesday. These hedge funds are submitting claims for losses incurred as a result of the halts, reclaiming money back for positions they opened or closed. So stay tuned and let's make some money. And now I'm going to dive straight in with the key information. So, this article says the New York Stock Exchange mayhem has been traced to a staffer who left a backup system running. The error led to wild price swings when trading opened on Tuesday, and as a result, firms are already submitting claims to recoup potential losses. Hedge funds are already filing with the New York Stock Exchange to gain their money back for positions they opened or closed out of. They're labelling the trades as clearly erroneous, either asking for the trades to be cancelled or just simply asking for their money back. And as ChaoticGood tweeted, he said they're going to get paid off of their own mistakes to boot. And he said fat fingers. I told you guys when it happened that they were always going to call it that rubbish again. It was either going to be a glitch or simply a data entry inputting error. And as ChaoticGood also tweeted, he said, just remember, when these things happen, it doesn't matter to them how many of those shares were synthetics. And that makes Hang Loose's next tweet so relevant. He said it makes you wonder if someone was trying to push through the purchase or sale of a bunch of shares or synthetics at a heavily discounted price. He said 80 plus securities is just way too many to have fat fingered a few entries or so. Fat fingering 1 or 2 trades could be accepted, but fat fingering 80 to 160, maybe even 320 trades just simply doesn't happen. The New York Stock Exchange has previously issued guidance on erroneous and aberrant trades. It says numerical guidelines. An execution may be found to be clearly erroneous only if the price of the transaction to buy is greater or less in the case of a sale. Basically saying that if a hedge fund has paid way too much money for some shares, they can deem it as clearly erroneous. But the order to buy must be greater than the reference price by an amount that equals or exceeds the numerical guidelines for a particular transaction category below. A mistake in ordering may not be sufficient to determine that a transaction was clearly erroneous. But if there was a glitch or a problem happening and a hedge fund paid way too much money for some shares, maybe to close out of some shorted positions, it can be deemed as erroneous and the transaction cancelled, unwound, or given their money back. The exchanges will generally use the last consolidated sale as the reference price to determine whether an execution is clearly erroneous. Now for a multi-stock event, which is a filing involving 20 or more securities whose executions occurred within a period of 5 minutes or less, must have a buy or sell transaction placed 30% outside of that normal transaction range. So if a hedge fund paid 30% too much money for some AMC shares, they can now reclaim their money back as a clearly erroneous trade. That to me sounds like there was a hedge fund out there wanting to buy some shares back to close out their short position, but they didn't want to overpay for the stocks or the shares because obviously no one is selling AMC shares. So instead of admitting their mistake and paying too much money for those shares, they simply paid too much money but deemed there was a glitch and it must class as an aberrant or an erroneous trade. Now you may say, Tom, that sounds absolutely crazy. Surely employees don't do that. But this is Travis tweeting, a Morgan Stanley employee who openly admitted to synthetically shorting stocks every single day. And he said this is how prime brokers like Goldman Sachs simply don't care, and how they're able to press F3 on their keyboards to override the shares available to short and find a locate that doesn't exist.
You have folks that are still, in the industry, and they've been like, I wouldn't advise you to talk about it, blah, 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 blah. But I think that they're living, they're all living in kind of a fake world.
Also guys, if you haven't already, be sure to join me on Moomoo and sign up to Moomoo right now using the link in the description below. You can currently get 15 free shares, entirely commission-free trading, and free level 2 market data. Moomoo is also very easy to use. It's got a very simple UI and it's got tons of technical indicators and advanced charting tools.
I would, illegally naked short sell stocks every day. Every day. As long as I was collecting commissions. And the bank did not care. The client will send you an order electronically. All you do is you click on the order, you go to execute, it'll pull up a little box, you type in anything you want, and you just hit OK. You don't ask questions. You appreciate the order. And if that involves shorting a stock naked, you do it anyway. because management essentially tells you just create the business. Anything on the backside, we will deal with. So you're collecting money on the front, you collect money on the back, and you actually have zero risk. Clients never see that. All the prime lenders, they all do it consistently. I was doing this, and I wasn't even really kind of aware. All of a sudden, when I was out and I'm sitting in COVID and David and I start talking, I'm like, oh my God, like this happens everywhere, every day.
So it really doesn't seem beyond me that one of these hedge funds could have just simply entered these trades to buy shares too expensive for them and just simply blamed it on a glitch and said the trades must be reversed or I must get my money back. And there was also a post that says, well, isn't that telling? Both designated market makers and floor brokers appear to have been frozen out of their order book that is used to build the opening print. It says so Citadel and other prime brokers got locked out of their order book and some stocks corrected themselves by about 20% before the limit up, limit down halt and panic recovery. He said if that isn't proof Citadel and other prime brokers are trying to pull all of the strings right now, I don't know what is. Especially as the New York Stock Exchange admitted the trading glitch was due to a manual error. It wasn't due to a computer code, it was due to somebody leaving the backup servers on. And therefore, as it was a manual error, it's clearly an erroneous trade, so all of you guys can have your money back. And the announcement by the New York Stock Exchange late on Tuesday said that some of the trades that occurred right at the open would be busted, but others would not be, adding to the confusion. And therefore many were trying to figure out how much money they may have lost yesterday, and that's why many hedge funds were submitting those claims for money back. And I think this also links into this tweet by Suspended POS about one of the new articles from the street. He said this new article from the street has no AMC isn't being synthetically shorted, look at the price being high, vibes all over it. He said they're trying to set the narrative that when AMC rips, they can pretend there wasn't any synthetic shorting and that any synthetic shares were covered during this trading glitch. They can say everybody got their money back and therefore there was no naked shorting going on. But that's what they'll say when AMC has already squoze. So this article says AMC shareholders have long demanded more transparency in the stock market. And it asks, is the share price of the movie theatre chain being driven by illegal trading activities? It says specifically the suspicions of AMC shareholders have been raised by the number of FTDs in AMC shares. FTDs usually occur when one of the parties in a trade fails to fulfill its obligations on the settlement day. However, when the number of daily FTDs abnormally swells, it can be an indication that traders are engaging in synthetic short selling. And they said if we look at AMC's FTD data, we can see there has been a large amount of FTDs in recent months. The article also goes on to talk about Wes Christian and says that Christian also said that in February there will be a turning point for those on the other side of the naked short selling trade. He said they will see a motherload of counterfeit shares exposed and it's gonna pale GameStop and AMC. This is because he expects a large company whose name he hasn't revealed to take action on the matter. I think Wes Christian is really hyping this up, and I believe the mainstream media will soon suggest that all synthetic short sellers have since exited their trades. And obviously this recent glitch would be an excellent excuse for them to say that they have exited their trades. While I think that potentially some of the synthetic short sellers could have bought back shares and maybe trying to reclaim money, I definitely don't think all of the short sellers have done that. I think it's only going to be a small fraction, and most of those synthetic short sellers are still holding their large short positions on AMC and GameStop. I think if anyone has tried to close out of their positions and claim money back, I think it's only a very small portion or a very small fraction of those hedge funds. I think most of those hedge funds are overconfident that they will win and that AMC will never squeeze and that AMC will go bankrupt. I think they're so overconfident they've become deluded in their time and they simply don't understand the metrics of the AMC squeeze. And that's why when AMC does end up squeezing, the mainstream media will turn around and say, look, we knew some hedge funds that did get out of these short positions, and therefore it's not our fault. And finally, I also wanted to talk about this tweet from Oleg. He said Fidelity is offering 57% interest a year to lend my shares. He said, wow, I can make $10,000 a month doing nothing, but I'm not doing it. because what Fidelity don't tell you is that you have to give up your proxy voting rights while your securities are on loan. That means if you do lend out your AMC shares, you will not get to participate in upcoming AMC meetings. You will not get to vote on the AMC 8 conversion. Instead, short sellers get to vote on your behalf. And therefore, even though you can generate interest from lending out your AMC shares, it seems Fidelity is not telling you the full story. So guys, be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always guys, be sure to ding that notification bell, because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.